Good day everyone, I am Shane Lawrence R. Camarillo from BSN1 Henderson. So today I will be going to dissect a pig's kidney to identify and locate its internal and external parts, structures, and regions. After that, I will be going to trace the flow of blood inside the kidney and also the process of urine formation. So let's start. Okay, so before anything else, let me first locate and identify the coverings of the kidney. By the way, we have three coverings of the kidney. We have the fibrous capsule, the perirenal fat capsule, and the renal fascia. But unfortunately, we only have here the fibrous capsule. So we're just gonna discuss about this. Okay, so the fibrous capsule is a tough fibrous tissue that surrounds each kidney. Okay, it also protects the kidney from damage and help it to keep in place. Okay. We can also see here the three prominent passageways in this indented part of the kidney, which is called the renal hilum. Okay, so in addendum to that, the renal hilum is the entry and exit site for structures servicing the kidneys, like blood vessels, nerves, lymphatics, and the ureters. Okay, so going back, we have here the renal artery, right here, right here. So the renal artery carries oxygenated blood from the heart into the kidney. Okay, so next we have the renal vein right here. So the renal vein carries the oxygenated blood from the kidney into the heart, right? Okay, so the question here is, how did I classify them? So as we go back to our previous discussion, we have learned that the walls of the arteries are thicker than veins. So yun, as simple as that. And moving on to the last external part of the kidney, we can see here the ureter right here. This is the ureter. Okay, so the ureter carries urine from the kidney to the down to the urinary bladder. Okay, so now that we are done locating the external structures of the kidney, we can now proceed to the dissection. Okay, so let's start. Moving on, we also have here the three regions of the kidney. So let's start with the renal cortex right here. So renal cortex, as you can see here, this is the outermost layer of the kidney. No, so here, it contains the nephrons. No, so the nephrons are the basic filtering units of the kidney. Okay, so we can see those nephrons because they are only observable under the microscope. So the nephrons are responsible for filtering the blood and removing waste products. Here, dito sila. Okay? So, the renal cortex also contains several important structures like the glomerulus, the Bowman's capsule, and the proximal convoluted tubules, and so on. Okay? So, this is the renal cortex, this part. We also have here another region of the kidney named the renal medulla. Here, this part of the kidney. So the renal medulla is the inner layer of the kidney, as we can see here, and it is made of cone-shaped structures called the renal pyramids right here. These are the renal pyramids, the cone-shaped structures, which will be explicated later on. No. So moving on to the last chamber of the kidney, we have the renal pelvis here. The renal pelvis. So the renal pelvis is a funnel-shaped chamber located in the center of the kidney here. So this structure collects urine. It collects urine from the collecting ducts right here and funnels it to the ureter here, the large hole here. This is the ureter. We can also see here some of the structures present inside the kidney. So let's start with the renal calyces. Okay, so here are the renal calyces here. Yan. So, renal calyces are cup-shaped structures, no? So, these structures collect urine from the nephrons. They collect urines from the nephrons inside the renal pyramids, okay? So, there are two types of calyces, no? So, let's start with the major calyx here. So, the major calyx here is also a cup-shaped structure that collects urine from several minor calyces, no? So, this major calyx directs the urine here coming from the renal pyramids into the renal pelvis, okay, which is a larger structure that funnels urine into the ureter. Okay. So we also have here the minor calyx. Okay. So this minor calyx collects urine from few nephrons. Okay. So if the major calyx directs the urine into the renal pelvis, this minor calyx directs urine into the major calyx. Okay. Okay, so we can also see here the renal columns right here, just between the renal pyramids. So these renal columns are groups of tissue that projects into the center of the kidney. Okay, so it contains blood vessels and nerves that supply the kidney. Okay, lastly, we have here the renal pyramid. So the renal pyramid makes up the bulk of the kidney. No, so this renal pyramid is one of the most important structures inside the kidney because it contains the nephrons. So as we all know, the nephrons are the basic filtering units of the kidney. No? So the renal pyramids also contain the loop of Henle, the distal convoluted tubule, and the collecting ducts. The loops of Henle are responsible for reabsorbing the water and electrolytes from the filtrates. No? And the distal convoluted tubule naman and the collecting ducts are responsible for modifying the filtrate and transporting it into the renal pelvis. Okay. So after identifying all the structures, let us now trace the blood flow inside the kidney. Okay. So the blood flow or the blood's journey through the kidney begins in the aorta. Here. We can see here the aorta in actual. Okay. So as we all know, aorta is the largest artery in the body. No. So from the aorta, the blood flows into the renal arteries. Right here. And so the renal arteries will now branch off into each kidneys, here and in the right kidney. And the renal arteries then divide into smaller and smaller arteries or blood vessels called the segmental arteries, right here, the interlobal arteries, right here, and we also have the arcuate arteries right here, and the cortical radiate arteries right here. Okay, so after that, if we are going to zoom in here using a microscope, we can see that the cortical radiate arteries will eventually lead into the afferent arterioles, which are small vessels that supply blood into the glomeruli. No? So the glomeruli, which are mostly located here at the renal cortex, are clusters of tiny capillaries that are responsible for filtering the blood. Okay? So once the blood has been filtered through the glomeruli, it flows now into the efferent arterioles. No? So the efferent arterioles are slightly smaller than the afferent arterioles, and they branch into a network of capillaries that surround the tubules of the nephron. So the capillaries that surround the tubules of the nephrons, as mentioned earlier, are called peritubular capillaries. No? So the peritubular capillaries are responsible for reabsorbing essential nutrients and water from the glomerular filtrate. Okay? So, some of the efferent arterioles form the vasa recta, which are long hairpin-shaped vessels that descends into the medulla of the kidney. Here, okay? So, the vasa recta help to maintain the osmotic gradient in the medulla, which is essential for reabsorbing water from the urine. So, the peritubular capillaries and the vasa recta will now eventually merge to form the cortical radiate vein. No? So the cortical radiate veins will now combine to form the arcuate veins right here. And also the interlobar veins and also the renal vein. So we have no segmental veins here. No? And after that, the renal veins will now carry blood out the kidneys and into the inferior vena cava. And after that, the inferior vena cava will now carry or transport deoxygenated blood from the kidney into the heart for oxygenation, right? So that's the pathway of blood flow inside the kidney. Okay, so now that we are done with the pathway of blood flow in the kidney, we now move on to the process of urine formation. I will just add an image here for a more detailed discussion, for we cannot see the nephrons with our naked eyes. Okay, so let's start. We have here the first stage of the urine formation, named the glomerular filtration. So it is the process of filtering blood in the glomeruli, which are tiny clusters of blood vessels in the kidney. So the glomerular filtration membrane allows water and small solutes to pass through, but not large proteins or blood cells. The filtrate or filtered blood then flows into the Bowman's capsule, a cup-shaped structure that surrounds each glomerulus. Okay? So moving on to the second stage of the urine formation, we have the tubular reabsorption. Okay? So it is the process of reabsorbing essential nutrients and electrolytes from the filtrate back to the bloodstream. This occurs in the renal tubules, which are long tubes that lead from the Bowman's capsule to the collecting ducts. Okay, so the tubules reabsorb water, glucose, amino acids, sodium, potassium, and more other important substances. Okay. For the last stage of urine formation, we have tubular secretion. Okay. So this is the reverse of the tubular reabsorption because it is the process of secreting waste products and excess ions from the bloodstream into the filtrate. Okay. So this also occurs in the renal tubules. And some of the substances that are secreted into the filtrate include urea, creatinine, hydrogen ions, and ammonium ions. Okay? So take note that the filtrate that remains after tubular reabsorption and secretion is urine. Okay? So the urine now then flows through the collecting ducts and into the ureters. Okay? Which are tubes that carry the urine to the bladder. And the bladder now stores the urine until it is excreted from the body through the urethra. Okay?